Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Glenn Morris. I have the honor of being the President and CEO of the Chamber of Commerce for Santa Maria and the Santa Maria Valley here in northern Santa Barbara County. Today we're continuing our series of community leader conversations and visiting with different people who help lead our community and sharing information that will be helpful for our businesses and their operations. Today, I'm excited to be joined by two of our educational leaders here in the community. And we've invited them to share some perspectives about how this current situation is impacting, obviously, their students, but also their faculty and their organizations, and how those impacts really translate into our businesses and into our broader community. So first, I want to welcome Dr. Debbie Blough, with the Orcutt Union School District. Debbie and I are in Rotary together, and we usually end up sitting at the same table. So, Debbie, it's good to be back in a room virtually, at least, with you.
Absolutely.
So, thanks for taking some time. And then I'm also excited to introduce the newest member of our educational leadership team here in Santa Maria, Antonio Garcia. Antonio is the superintendent for the Santa Maria Joint Union High School District, and comes to us from Riverside County, I believe is what we talked about, and he's been with us for, are we at 2 months yet, Antonio, or are we?
Yeah, little past that. Yeah, working on a
little past that. All right,
yeah.
but not very long, and so he came in and is doing a great job of really integrating into the community. At least virtually now. We'll get you to Rotary later, but for now, we'll do this kind of stuff. So thank you to both of you for taking some time today. Let me just kind of start with a general question. How are things going? What have been the big, I think we all know the big change was we sent all the kids home and asked them to interact with their teachers in very different ways, but I'm sure there are other kinds of things that are more behind the scenes. So maybe Debbie, why don't you go first, and then we'll have Antonio. Just kind of big picture, what's the world look like for school these days?
Well, big picture is it's different than we've ever done before. Absolutely. And this may change some of the things that we do in education in the future. I'd say the biggest thing overall is I just have to really commend every single employee in our district, because everyone is working extremely hard and longer hours. Folks might assume that because the schools and the campuses are empty with kids right now that we're working easier. That's not the case. Everybody's working longer hours and working very hard and doing a great job with it. Our district launched distance learning, which was one of the expectations after the closures. And while we maybe were a little behind some of the districts, we took a couple weeks to get it up and running because of some of the proactive things that we've done in the past few years with professional development and getting technology and devices in the hands of students. We've been able to launch it, and it's going better than we expected. And while we can't replace the day-to-day classroom, we're doing a close second. And again, I just can't say enough about the great staff that we have and everything they're doing. Our focus is on our families and our kids.
That's great. Antonio, how's the world changed for you guys?
Well, first of all, Glenn, thanks for having us here. I appreciate the opportunity to have our public schools represented here and partnering with the Chamber. Yeah, I'd have to echo what Dr. Blough, what Debbie has just mentioned in terms of just the enormous effort that has been put forth by our staff, all of our employees, really having to pivot in the way that we, do our work. And so people have really stepped up and in many ways have gone above and beyond to meet the needs of our students. And, in terms of the needs of our students, I'd like to focus a little bit perhaps on that, because this crisis has really brought to light not necessarily the needs and challenges. We already knew, we've always known the needs and challenges of many of our students and families that come to our schools, but it's really brought to light the extent of that, and the impact really has been exacerbated by this crisis. You know, we're seeing a lot of things firsthand on the effects that this has had on students' home environment, and in particular their learning environment, right, which goes hand in hand with their home environment. I mean, we've got, you know, situations where parents are, you know, have become unemployed. You know, we have situations, particularly at the high schools, of course, where students are having to go to work in order to help sustain the household. You know, the issues of homelessness have been really compounded. Some of the mental health issues, you know, are just coming even to greater light. You know, we lost 2 students in the last several weeks to either drugs or suicide. And so, you know, those kind of things, you know, just really put a spotlight on some of the need that exists in our youth and within our community. And of course, it's not unique to our community, but really, to Debbie's point, that it really has made us really pull up our you know, roll up our sleeves to really address these multiple needs. I mean, we have multiple families that are living in a home, and some of the issues that come with that are, for example, internet connectivity, to try to address that connectivity for all of the members in that household, including the students, of course. You know, students are having to take up home, you know, responsibilities at home that they perhaps didn't have, or maybe just have increased, and that you know, has an effect on students' time to do their studies, having a quiet place, you know, when everybody's home all day, to do, you know, to study and do their work. And then a big impact to particularly our high school seniors, right? Their last year, their last quarter. There's a lot of traditions that we all know. We've all been through high school, right? There's certain rites of passage that we've all gone through that a lot of all of our seniors are missing out on, you know, from graduation to grad night, prom, awards nights. I mean, all kinds of the socialization that happens towards the end of the year before they go off to do their own thing,
right,
you know, after high school. Now, don't get me wrong. You know, with all of this, our students are resilient, they're intelligent, and with the right approach, they engage. But they still need us, and they've needed us more than ever, I think. And our teachers, like Debbie mentioned, our administrators, our support staff, they continue to do that. They're delivering lessons remotely every day. Counselors are counseling students every day. We're supporting the well-being of our students. We're providing the technology support. I mean, we have thousands of electronic devices out there. And in our district, we have had a one-to-one device program. And so that's a lot of having to maintain that remotely. So we've opened up hotlines, and, you know, had to restructure the way we, you know, take in devices to repair them, get them out, you know, having to purchase hotspots to address some of those connectivity issues. You know, then we're distributing meals, you know, thousands here in Santa Maria alone, and Orcutt, thousands of meals that our food service employees are distributing on a daily basis. So, you know, and it goes on with all of the work that's been done. So, you know, just again, kudos.
I appreciate that. And, you know, you can look at the tradition loss kind of stuff, right? At the end of the year, and you know, where the three of us sit in life, we can look back at it and say, it'll be fine. You'll get it past it. No worry, you know. But for those students in that moment, it's a big deal, right? And so I think it's appropriate that people are at least having that conversation about, you know, what are the options, right? How do we support them? So you mentioned staff, or I'll step in. Have either of you had to do any furloughs or let some people go, or have you been able to kind of redeploy people and put them to work in different ways?
No furloughs or anything as a result of COVID-19. All of our staff are in full paid status. We have reduced some hours in some cases because we also want to make sure our staff are safe, and but also brought in staff at different times. For example, we did serve meals during our spring break, which normally we would not do. So we had to bring in our child nutrition staff during that spring break time, and of course we compensated them for that. As we're continuing to move forward, you know, we're kind of going through it. It seems strange, but we are going through the normal school year things. And right now we're having to gear up for how we close down our sites.
Mm-hmm.
And that is going to mean bringing back in some of our staff who have been working more remotely and haven't necessarily had the same schedule that they have, but bringing in our office managers to print up certificates for end of year things. We've had to figure out how we're going to get these students' personal items that were in their desks back to them at the end of the year. And how do we go in and bag up and pack up those items so that we can distribute them? How do we get the PE lockers cleaned out? And, you know, just all of the things that normally are just we do it, you know, and it's the end of the year kind of activities that are going to be done in a different way. And as Antonio mentioned, we are working on how we can do some kind of a send-off for our seniors at Orcutt Academy High School.
That's great. Antonio, you're still fully staffed? I mean, I think it's important to talk about that part because, you know, in addition to what you do from your product side, you know, you all represent significant, you're major employers in our communities as well, right? So from the chamber perspective, that employment side. So Antonio, how's that looking for you?
Yeah, very similar to what Debbie mentioned. You know, all of our staff that are full-time are continue to be employed. You know, and there's, you know, with the work that we do and the sector that we're working in as it pertains to education, you know, we have the opportunity to continue to do the work that we do with our students because it is an essential service as outlined really by the federal government. And so, and I believe that I can speak for probably most, if not all of our employees that feel very fortunate and grateful to have the opportunity to still be employed, number one. And secondly, to have the opportunity to continue to add value in the service that we provide to our students and our families and the community. So I think it's, we're very fortunate and we're grateful to be contributing to continue to contribute in this way.
Yeah. You both mentioned meals, right? And the feeding piece. And I think, you know, there's this whole range of services that you all provide in a normal time, right? That we probably don't think about in relation to schools, right? We think kids go, have class, come home, right? But there's a lot more to it, you know, from providing food to providing mental health support, in some cases probably medical coverage. You know, there's this whole range of other services, and this situation has probably highlighted those maybe a little more as you've become more community centers again and places where people are coming for assistance. Talk a little bit about that part of what you all are doing in the community now that you know maybe has been amplified a little bit.
Well, definitely the meal distribution. As Antonio mentioned, we continue to serve breakfast and lunch every day. It is a drive-through pickup for our students. We're serving over 1,000 meals a day, which 1,000, actually 2,000 a day, because they pick up breakfast and lunch at the same time.
Right.
We have 4 of our school sites where they drive through and pick up the meals. So continuing that has been huge. And as I said, we even picked it up during spring break, which we normally do not do, We're looking towards summer. We have participated in a summer meals program and anticipate continuing to do that. The food bank has reached out to us, and while at this time we haven't needed that, we have offered to have one of our campuses have a storage facility for some of the staple foods that they needed. So we're ready to go with that if need be. I know Antonio will tell you some things that he's done for the community support with that. That's the meal distribution is probably the biggest thing that we've done.
Yeah.
Yeah, for same thing with the meals. You know, we are literally serving thousands of meals, and you know, I also want to say that I know there's only a couple of us in terms of Debbie and I being able to be here. I know that Luke Ontiveros from Santa Maria Bonita wasn't able to be here with us, nor Emilio Gandel from Guadalupe, but you know, basically what we're covering here goes really across the whole community here in terms of the work that's being done, including the meals. You know, like I said, just thousands, tens of thousands of meals that are being distributed every day to our families, to our students. You know, in addition to that, I would add that in terms of community, the community perspective is we continue to work with the organizations that we typically work with, such as Fighting Back Santa Maria Valley, Por Vida, and others in the community. Can't list them all right now, but to continue to help meet the needs of our students, right? With foster youth, with the homeless, you know, other issues that our students need some support with, and our families as well. The other thing too is at Santa Maria High School, we are working with Good Samaritan. We have a shelter there that's now been there for several weeks. It's a temporary satellite shelter, and it's being held in our gymnasium. And there are, I believe, about 70 or so community members that are homeless that are being housed there. And so we're glad to just be part of this whole, you know, citywide, community-wide effort to try to, you know, address the needs that have surfaced as part of this crisis that we really weren't necessarily fully prepared for. But we've pivoted. We have made some, you know, decisions to, you know, continue to the best that we can, the best of our ability to meet those needs. Right.
So let me pivot a little bit, and if you were talking to business owners in our community, what would you tell them? How can they help you deliver your mission, right? And I'm thinking of things that could be, you know, institutional support, right? There may be some needs that you have on the, you know, kind of the macro level, but maybe it's also, or not maybe, but clearly it's also, you know, their employees have children, many cases at home that are, and you know, so what advice or ask would you have of the employer community as they think about, you know, how the change in school delivery impacts them, and what would you tell them?
Of course, one of the biggest things is childcare, because I have younger students. Antonio's more with the high school age students, but I appreciate the childcare piece, and for the business communities to be aware of that, you know, as we start to think about reopening and things, that's going to be a challenge for that childcare piece. And I know a lot of our families right now, parents are working from home because the kids are home from school and learning and all of that. I think a lot of it from the business perspective is going to be more down the road, more as we get further into this. And I know all the businesses are also going to be stretched, and there's going to be asks for needs and things. And I do know that lean times are ahead for the school systems. we're hearing about that as we have to build our budgets. We adopt our budget before July 1, and it's a lot of an unknown right now for everybody. It's particularly an unknown in education. Normally we have what's called a May revision that the governor puts out, and that's what we use to quickly pull together and build our budget. And I do know that there are going to be some difficult times ahead. I was a superintendent during the last Great Recession, and we're having to dust off some of those plans and look at what we're going to need to do. And some of the groups that help support us, some of the nonprofits, I think are going to be impacted by this. We have the Orcutt Children's Arts Foundation, which does a tremendous job in supporting arts education in all of our schools, and so whatever can be done to help out with that. On a short-term basis, more immediate, I am working on a way to do graduation for our seniors, and it's going to probably cost a little bit more than the normal graduation ceremony would do, than we have budgeted for. So if any of our local groups would like to help sponsor our graduation, that would be a great help for the Orcutt School District. But I think a lot of it is, it's going to be coming up. For right now, biggest thing, of course, is letting your teachers know how much you appreciate what they're doing, because they're working very, very hard right now. And I know that extra, hey, we really appreciate you. Teacher Appreciation Week, Classified Appreciation Week is coming up. If anyone can help us appreciate our staff through that, that would also be a much, much appreciated.
Yeah, I agree with everything that Debbie has said, and we are, looking toward some challenges fiscally, as across the state, and I know across the country, right? So, we'll have to just all stay tuned in that regard. I do have some specific things that pertain, more towards the high school age students. For example, I mentioned earlier about internet connectivity being a continuing challenge for our families, and so any way that businesses can assist with that. I know there's already efforts underway, but even sponsoring families who need some assistance with the cost of the internet connectivity, and I know we're trying to do the best we can with that, but that's an area that I think others in the community can assist with. As it pertains, we have one of the things that has been difficult to do with the remote learning is within our career technical education programs, because as you well know, a lot of those programs are very require a lot of hands-on type of instruction and learning, and that part is not taking place. And so if there are any businesses who can, somehow carve out a way to provide some internships or other types of opportunities for students to, at some point, be able to safely, of course, be able to, help fill that gap, that I think is one way. The other thing is also, mentoring, and I think these ideas apply not just now, but I think this can happen at any time. But just being a mentor, I think now more than ever our students need. We know that mentoring really helps with young people in terms of helping them really develop their goals and aspirations and work towards them in a more successful manner. Another thing that's very specific, but it's so real here, especially within our city, is the students that are in the Future Farmers of America program, right? We don't know if the county fair is going to be canceled or not, and a lot of the students have been raising their animals, and usually what happens is at the fair, right, you have different farmers and families who will purchase their animals, and they they get their investment back, if you will. And so being able to maybe sponsor a student who's a future farm worker of America, in that regard, is another way that I think businesses can assist with. You know, another area is, our students, in particular, our 11th and 12th graders, as they are really gearing up towards their post-secondary options. Something that a lot of businesses have on their websites are career opportunities. And a lot of that is geared towards, people who are looking for jobs and things like that. But another idea is to, in addition to that, is to include in their websites something that's more geared towards high school students and or middle school students as well. Something that, there's a lot of students who don't know of all the different careers that exist, of different vocations that exist out there. And to have on websites a place where young people can go to that is relevant to that particular business, that talks about what opportunities exist, what are the educational requirements, how can students best prepare for these type of jobs, I think is one way that business can help engage students, especially right now when it's education is being done remotely. Maybe even hosting some Zoom tours of their business facilities, or some of the people who are, I'm an engineer at this company, and here's what I really do. A lot of students know about engineering, but they don't really know what an engineer does on a day-to-day basis. And to be able to Zoom with having kind of like an interview, or what are some of those soft skills that students need in order to be, successfully, enter a certain profession and things like that. And then, and if anybody is interested in this, they can certainly contact any of the districts in our community, or maybe they have a connection with a particular school that they'd like to be able to just connect with and focus on a particular school, whether it's an elementary, middle, or high school. Reach out, and we're always happy to partner and leverage resources within our community to help our students.
Those are great. I love a lot of those ideas, and one of the things that we really have been focusing on is trying to help. I think we're pretty well aligned in our community in terms of what we prepare students for, and then what the opportunities that exist in our community, right? But there's always room to fine tune that and really make sure that students see the local opportunities, right? The last thing we want to do is spend all of our time preparing them for jobs they have to move away for, right? When there are great opportunities right here, but maybe they're not as visible or as well known. So I love some of those ideas. So maybe just in the last couple of minutes we've got, Debbie, at the beginning, you made a comment about this may change the way we do business, not just now, but going forward. And I know it's early, right? And today you're trying to just get through what you got to get through, but I'm sure that you all are starting to think about, what might education look like in the future, and how will that be different for families, for employers, right, that are impacted? And we're not going to hold you to any of these predictions, but are there a couple of ideas that you're thinking about that maybe the community ought to be thinking about as well, in terms of how we deliver school in different ways?
I think, first of all, the distance learning approach is possibly going to be a lot more of what we do. And we may find that families prefer that, while other families, still are going to want a more traditional program. We have one of our charter programs is a blended independent study program where students come on campus 3 days a week and actually attend a regular brick and mortar type classroom, and then the other part is done at home study and remotely. And it is possible that that is going to be one of the options in the future. And we may have more families that would seek that and find after all of this that better meets their needs. So I think that's one of the things as we start looking at scenarios for reopening, we may need to look at a bit of a different calendar structure. We may need to look at more of a group comes in the morning and go a different group in the afternoon, but there's the distance learning that goes on then at the rest of the day. But I think certainly as we reopen, some different scenarios may have to be considered and instituted, as well as this may be more what we do in the future. I think we have found out that we can do a lot more things remotely. Business workers, a lot more business can be done remotely and not having to do that commute. Fortunately, we don't have a commute issue so much here, but
Right.
I know in working in the past, the commute was a huge part of that. And so things may continue to look a little bit different, but the one thing that is a constant, we're still going to need teachers. No matter what, we're still going to need teachers.
And maybe more of them, right? As we try
Absolutely.
to spread out in distance and all those kinds of things.
Yes.
Antonio, what are you kind of thinking high schools might look like in the future?
Well, I just got to say, Debbie, well said about that last statement, especially about, we will always need great teachers to engage our students in the learning process, whether it's, in person or it's remotely. It takes, teaching is I've always said there's a combination of a science and an art, right? And it just really, research tells us over and over again, the most important factor in the success of a student in their education is who is the teacher in that classroom. And so, and of course, all the support staff that are needed to, support that teacher, those teachers and those students. So I think beyond that, I think that, schools are kind of a microcosm of the society in general. And I think one of the things that's really going to change across our country and our communities is how we practice our, safety and take care of our health. And, our parents in our community, they send their children to our schools, and they expect us to take care of their children, make sure that they're safe. And that's a big, big priority. And we've always, I believe, have done a really good job of that. And I've always felt good about the way in which, in schools we take care of our students. But I think this kind of really elevates that to another level. And we've learned a lot, and there's still a lot to learn through this crisis. And so I think within schools and in businesses and other places where we serve the public, we're going to probably see a change in the way in which we practice those health and safety measures. And then the other thing too, and going along with what David mentioned about the using technology to a greater degree, we're going to have to plan for the maintenance of that. And because the more you use technology, then the higher the cost to maintain it, to replace it. We're probably going to see a shorter cycle of replacement of technology. And then we're going to need to just find a way to really address that connectivity issue. And I think it's probably bigger than the schools, and it is really a citywide, community-wide initiative that needs to be taken upon. And I know there's already work being done in that regard with Ellen Hancock College and the Chamber and the city and the school districts. So I think those are some of the areas that I see us really needing to spend some time and some resources, some real thoughtful planning in order to really maintain that level of education that I think parents and the community have come to expect from us.
I appreciate that. Last question, the governor the other day kind of threw a little random point out and said, hey, schools may open in July to make up for some lost learning time. Either of you anticipating calling kids back in July or early August, or is it too early to even understand what that might be?
Well, that was an interesting moment for us.
Right.
You know,
Like what?
I appreciate kind of the thought I felt behind that of, you know, our students have definitely lost instructional time this year and needing to catch up. And so being able to add some additional time, if we were able to do that, would be great. But there are a lot of pieces that go into that, and you know, we would have to have negotiations with our teachers association, our classified association. So
Right.
yeah, there's a lot of things that would have to go into happen, and a lot of moving parts that would have to go in place before we do that. So yeah, it's a little early. I can't commit to exactly what we would be doing with that.
You didn't immediately pull out the calendar and start plugging in new dates, huh?
No.
No, I appreciate that. Well, I want to thank the two of you, and Antonio, as you rightly pointed out, we could have invited, you know, any number of our educational partners. You know, I think one of the things that I really appreciate about this community is we have a great, strong educational system, and from the seat that I sit in, we have a great partnership with each of our districts. You all are good at joining us in initiatives and including us in your initiatives, and really that communication that goes back both ways is strong, and we really appreciate that. So again, thank you for some time today. I know you've got 1,002 things to do, but we appreciate you taking some time to share some perspective with folks, and we'll definitely follow up on some of these ideas about ways that we can help organize some business support for some of your needs, and you know, as you both have pointed out, ultimately for our students. So again, thank you, and appreciate your partnership and leadership in our community.
Well, thank you again for having us today.
Yes, thank you, Glenn. Appreciate the partnership as well. Thanks for the support.